Hey everyone, I'm here to share a quick tip for you on how to remove the most impossible tile. I found in my own search, I'm definitely not a professional, I found in my own search all over the internet, and I couldn't find anything to help me remove the tiles that seem to easily fall off for everybody else, and they're just not coming off for me. You can see I'm at the tail end of removing all of the tiles from my kitchen. And I've done everything I could to cautiously and safely chip away at the tiles, but you'll see that I have a heck of a lot of damage here. They used a really strong thin set. It really seemed like every corner of my tile was super glued and they weren't chipping away. If you're like me, you're looking all over the place and you're seeing how easily the tiles chip away, and as cautious as I was, I've still got a lot of damage to the wall. So many of the videos showed that they just use a pry bar and a hammer and easily tapped into the tiles with the pry bar and the tiles fell off. Well, that didn't work. That was my first attempt. I did everything I could to not pry against the drywall, and as you can see, that's what happened here. Second attempt was to use a really razor thin putty knife, and tapping into every section of the tile proved to be pretty effective. I simply worked my way around a piece of tile, tapped into it from all angles that I could, but it was really tedious, and quite often, even though I did that, the thin set was so strong, the putty knife would start to work in behind, tap into the drywall itself, and then put pretty big gaps into the wall, which I'd have to repair later. I also saw a video where they used a pneumatic hammer, or they just used a regular hammer and broke into the tile. But no matter how many times I would hit that, this is a really strong tile, and it just wouldn't crack. And the more I hit it, the more it actually caused damage to the drywall behind it, and it wouldn't do anything to the tile itself besides put a little bit of nicks onto it. So finally I've discovered a way to remove this impossible tile pretty effectively. Unfortunately towards the end of my project, but it's proved pretty effective, and I want to make sure I help anybody else that I can save time if you're really in a situation like mine. All you'll need is a very thin putty knife. I've used this throughout, and this is going to be the key. You also need a hammer. Otherwise, I actually have this pretty handy tool. It's I call it my ball peen hammer. There's probably a more professional name for it, but it gives a lot of force on a very localized point on the hammer, and it seems to do a much better job. So between that and a normal hammer, that's really all you'll need. All you'll be doing now is taking the thin putty knife, placing it right behind the tile, using a regular hammer to force the putty knife just about a quarter or half inch behind the tile. Like I said before, if I hit the hammer, hit the putty knife far too much behind the tile, it'll start to work its way down, and then it'll hit the point where the thin set pushes it out, and then it puts a hole into the drywall behind. So instead, I'm slowly working through the tile. I tap the putty knife just about a quarter inch down, and then from there I grab my other hammer and I hit the tile only where the putty knife is behind it, and that's preventing me from doing any damage to the drywall. I don't know if I've got weak drywall, but it as I start to hit the tile with the hammer, it actually cracks the drywall. So by putting the putty knife down behind the tile, it helps to take some of the impact of that hammer, and immediately it starts to crack the tile. Whereas if I hit the tile without it, it doesn't crack the tile, and instead it seems to crack the drywall behind. And then once I get those cracks, I'll then grab a stronger putty knife and I'll then just chip away and pull those cracked pieces away. And, you know, and I just work it slowly. I crack out a few different pieces of tile, pull those away, grab the putty knife, work its way down behind the tile, hit the tile a few more times. It cracks again, and I slowly chip away at the tile. Granted, this is a very long process to do the whole kitchen, but I'd much rather invest that extra work while taking out the tile rather than invest so much more time later on repairing the drywall. So to demonstrate, I'm just going to grab that putty knife, tap it down just a little bit, grab my other hammer. Now I'll crack it, put my glove back on, crack it just enough so that I can easily pull away a few pieces. I'll do it again. Work my way down, crack the tile, pull away those pieces with the putty knife. Keep going. And then for the final piece of that tile, it just pops out. As you can see, it takes a few 2 to 3 to 4 tries before you get through a whole piece of tile. But compared to the amount of work that it takes to repair the drywall, I'd rather invest that.